Hello folks and welcome to today's vlog. It is a slightly different kind of vlog today. Andy, I'm actually recording this on Wednesday morning. Andy was off school again on Tuesday. I didn't really have the opportunity to do much filming because Anna was at uni all day. I didn't want to just rush something together. I didn't really want to just film him moping around being ill because it's not really fair on him to do that. He did start eating though again yesterday. He was eating and drinking and seemed to really pick up as the day went on. He still was a little bit drowsy. He still was not close to 100%, but he is eating and drinking again. He has perked up massively. And importantly, I'm saying this Wednesday morning, he has gone to school today. So fingers crossed, he'll eat some food there. We'll get over another one of these little hurdles. And I think once he can have a few days of getting back into normal routine, getting back into eating and drinking normally, then he should start to perk back up again. Remember, a lot of people are saying, well, of course he's ill. Look at what he eats. Look at what he drinks. Yeah, but he's done that for the last year. And look at the improvement he made from this time last year through to November. If you just like picked a random vlog every week between January and November last year, you'd see the development of Andy from someone who was massively underweight, didn't communicate, didn't engage with anybody, didn't care what was going on, didn't want to leave the house, was just afraid of everything. And he developed through to someone who was just loving life in November. And then it kind of all went wrong. A combination of routines changing and getting poorly and going off his food and just all these things sort of piled up on him. And he's actually done really well to come out the other side of it. And fingers crossed, we are out the other side of it now. And he can start to get a little bit of normality back to his life. So because we didn't do much filming for the vlog, I didn't want to have a vlogless day. As I'm sat here, I did have a contingency plan in place. I asked on the Facebook discussion group yesterday for any Q&A questions that people might have. So I'm just going to go through and answer as many of those as I can get through in a reasonably length vlog. And I'm going to pour Coke Zero down my throat while I do it to try and stop myself from coughing because I still have a horrible cough. So, Caleb Falgout says, have I seen the Maze Runner movies? I haven't seen the Maze Runner movies. I have read the first book. I quite like the book, but I've not seen any of the movies. Ty Swanky says, when does Dave get his own channel? Dave's not getting his own channel. He'd end up with more subscribers than me, and I already have to live in a world where effectively Andy has more subscribers than I do, and that is the jealousy there. I can't have my kid and my dog both with more subscribers than me. I'll just give up YouTube if that happens. Brooke Tinkler, what's the hardest thing you had to adapt to after meeting Andy? I don't know. I don't think there's been any. I don't think meeting Andy was a difficult thing to adapt to. The fact that Anna and Andy were living in Nottingham, that was quite difficult to adapt to, having to travel over there every day, having to make that decision quite early on in our relationship because I was just starting my teacher training. We knew it was going to be a massive, massive year for me and that I wouldn't have time to travel over to Nottingham every day. And we kind of had to make quite a risky call really early on in our relationship. Do we split up after a couple of months? Because we're basically not going to see ourselves for the next year, and that wouldn't be good for us because we were still getting to know each other. It wouldn't be good for Andy because of how important routine is to him, and I wouldn't necessarily have a set routine of visiting them because of the way my placements and things would work. So we had the choice of either splitting up or taking a massive risk and smashing our families together when we'd only known each other like 2 or 3 months. So I think for the whole family, there was a massive process of adapting to everything, to becoming a unit. And luckily, 5-6 years on, the gamble paid off. We're all happy. But that was a silly thing to do. Massive risk. Glad it came off. Blake Jones says, when you die, who'll take over the channel? I'm going to put it out there as a 35-year-old man that YouTube will die before I do. I hope. I really don't. I'd really like to think, because bear in mind, there isn't a website that exists that's lived longer than 20 years, ever in the history of the universe. Someone will probably throw 1 or 2 at me, and I know that's because the internet itself is relatively young, but on the grand scheme of things, the life of a website, even a really long-running website, is nowhere near the amount of life I should expect to still have. So hopefully YouTube dies before Kev does, and that will never have to come up. Amapreet Singh Lamba says, how do teachers develop thick skin? I don't know that it's that important a skill for a teacher. I've needed to develop a much thicker skin for being a YouTuber than a teacher. And I mean, developing a thick skin in general, it's not something I ever consciously set out to do. I've always said to people, getting old is great, because as you get older, you really start to care less about what people think. Some of the things that people said to me when I was a teacher, or some of the things that people say to me on a daily basis through social media now, if that had been said to me when I was 16, it would absolutely destroy my confidence and ruin my day. Whereas now, as long as I'm enjoying my life and enjoying what I'm doing, I don't care what anyone else thinks. I don't really care what they've got to say. If people like what I'm doing, then great. If they don't, so what? As long as I'm having fun, and as long as I'm paying the bills, and as long as I'm not hurting anybody, then I don't care what anyone else thinks. And that's not a conscious effort of, right, I need to develop a thick skin. That's very much a change in attitude and a change in mindset that's happened really organically over the course of growing up. And I think everyone goes through that. Everyone gets to the point where, you know what, it doesn't matter if I go to the shops without brushing my hair or putting makeup on, or I'll just go out in an old t-shirt that's got a food stain down it today, or I don't necessarily need to clean my car 3 times a week to make sure it's the shiniest one. And as you get older, it's not necessarily a process of getting lazy, it's just of putting stuff into context. As far as I'm concerned, as long as I'm happy, my family's happy, we're all safe, then who cares if some of the little things aren't quite right? And those little things could be making sure that I've got 10 clean pairs of socks in my sock drawer, or it could be having someone call me a fat moron on the internet like I get every day, and I just don't care about any of that stuff. Sammy Nimmo says, when will you be buying your Switch? Stop delaying the inevitable. We took the plunge this week and I haven't seen my husband since. It's fab. We'd like one. We'd really like one, but we are trying to be sensible with our money at the moment. We're not earning anywhere near the amount of money that we were earning this time last year when I was doing YouTube and working as a teacher. And it would be financially irresponsible at the moment to throw, £300 on a Switch? Probably 400 once we've got a couple of games for it as well. We both want one, but at the moment it's really a thing that we want for one game. We want to play Super Mario. It's not Galaxy, is it? That was the one on the Wii. What is it? Super Mario Odyssey? Is that it? We both want to play that. But Legend of Zelda we've got on the Wii U already. There's not any other killer apps on the Wii. It's not on the Switch. It's not like we're missing out on fantastic new release games all the time. We will get one, but we'll get one when we're a little bit more secure that we can spend £300 without it potentially paying the bills at risk the following month. We're trying to build back up the financial buffer that we had before we had to give everything up and hit where we were in the summer. So we've had a really successful few months through Patreon growing and Twitch donations and obviously Christmas YouTube monies. And we're just trying to build that back up again so that we can get to the point that when we get to Easter, April, May time, March, whenever Easter is, when views are down and revenue's down, we've got a little bit of a buffer to fall back on again. And we don't want to get into the situation where we run out of money. So that's why we haven't got one yet. But it's definitely still really high up on the wish list. Thomas Pettigrew wants to know, as a teacher, what were your most effective ways to deal with challenging classroom behaviour? There's a lot of teacher questions today. This is interesting. Perhaps I need to do some vlogs about being a teacher. The most effective way I dealt with it is the same way I deal with challenging behaviour in adults, or just challenging behaviour in general. I try not to deal with them as isolated issues. I focus more on building relationships with the people who are involved, whether they're adults or young people. Build up a relationship with them so that there's that mutual respect going back and forth between the two of you, so that if someone's just being an idiot, then you can say, look, can you just stop being an idiot? I'm trying to talk. And I think I was in a situation as a teacher where I could say something like that to somebody and just take a student to one side and say, look, I know we like a little bit of back and forth from time to time and we like to have a good time while we're going through this, but at the moment I'm trying to make a point for the rest of the class so they can do something that they need to do for their work. I need you to just zip it for a minute while I do that. And if you can't, then we're going to have a problem. Do we want to have a problem? And stuff like that, 95% of the time works just fine. There'd be the 5% of the time where they would take it too far and you'd just have to go down the route of, right, I'm going to ring your parents then and we'll have that conversation with your parents, who, by the way, I've also built up a good relationship with. So they're going to trust what I say to them. You might want to just tone it down a stack or give them a detention and that kind of stuff as well. But I rarely had to go down the route of detentions and phone calls home and things like that, because, like I say, 9 times out of 10, if you treat them like human beings all the time, then they'll treat you like a human being when you ask them to do something. Easy peasy, really. Aaron Hudson wants to know, what things do I do to try and help calm Andy down? Or he used all those words, just not in that order. I don't know how I messed that sentence up so much. The general thing that we do to calm Andy down is try and make things as normal as possible. So routines. People often comment, oh, well, why'd you let him go straight on his iPad as soon as he walks in from school? Well, because for nearly 2 years he refused to go to school, and the way we got him to go back was, we're taking your iPad off you now, you can have it back when you get home. So that calmed him down, because he knew when he wasn't having it and he knew when he would be getting it back. It was a way of calming him down about the anxiety of school. So we changed his routine and made it a routine that between 9 and 3, when he's not here, he doesn't have his iPad. As soon as he gets to 3 o'clock, he can have his iPad back. That coincides with when he comes back in from school. But we haven't really had, we've not had a meltdown for months at this point. The last time we got close was the first day of school back in September, the big video that you've all seen. That was the last time, I think. There's been times when he's not been happy, and there's been times when he's got a little bit wound up, but generally now we can just suggest he goes and has 5 minutes in his bedroom, or puts a blanket over his head, or generally, generally one of those two things will work. He just needs to shut the world off, and if he shuts the world off, he's generally his anxiety is because of the world around him getting too confusing. So the way to stop that is to let him shut himself off, whether it's from shutting himself off in his bedroom or just with a blanket over his head. Blanket over his head's a great trick. Callum Paxton wants to know, would I do a meetup in Newcastle? Yeah, I'd like to go to Newcastle. Similar to the Switch question, though, it's about money. We did a lot of meetups last year. We travelled around the country a lot, went to a lot of conventions. They cost a lot of money to do. A weekend at a convention, or a weekend... to be fair, convention, I know convention, because we get into the conventions for free. But we obviously have to pay for our own travel and hotels and food while we're there, and it's both me and Anna travelling. So for us to have 2 days away for meetups, so for us to go to Newcastle for a weekend and do a meetup, once you've factored in the hotel, food, travel, having someone to look after Dave, even if it's the girls, I'll give Lucy a little bit of cash to say thank you for popping in and looking after Dave and taking him out for a walk and that kind of thing. But you're closing in on like £500 for each one of those trips. And when we've got trips that we kind of have to do for our business, so we have to go to EGX because it's so important to the brand. We have to go to the 2 London Comic Cons. So there's 3 trips straight away. That's £1,500 on trips and meetups, which we have to find from somewhere. That's extra. That doesn't cut. We don't take that out of our normal day-to-day living budget. We have to find that from somewhere. So to do a Newcastle meetup, we'd love to do it. We've been saying for 2 years we want to go to Newcastle and do a meetup, but it's finding that extra £500, that extra weekend to go and do it. And at the moment, it's easier to do stuff like Manchester, Birmingham, London, because we have other reasons to be there as well. And when it's a case of, right, EGX is in September, here's your free tickets, you do the rest, it adds a little bit of urgency and a deadline to, right, we need to find the money to be able to do this. Whereas just having the idea of, yeah, we'd like to do Newcastle, but do we want to stretch ourselves too far this month? No, let's give it another month and then we'll see where we are. And because we're normal humans, we're a normal family, we don't find ourselves ever with that spare cash that we can say, right, now's the time, we're just going to have a weekend away in Newcastle for no reason, and we'll do a meet-up while we're there. But fingers crossed, sometime this year, we'll have a reason to go. Robbie Smith wants to know, have you ever moved house with Andy, and if so, did he struggle with the change? I haven't moved house with Andy, but as I said earlier on in the video, Andy moved house to come and live here when me and Anna got together. He didn't struggle with it at all. He just went with it. He still, when we drive past where their old flat in Nottingham used to be, he still calls it Nottingham home. Well, he was calling it home. Now he just calls it Nottingham home or mummy home. He still remembers it, but he didn't struggle with the change at all. We gave him his own little corner of the living room, which you see on the videos every day, where he's got his TV and he's got all his stuff. That replicates exactly what his corner in Anna's old living room was like. His bedroom here is very similar to his bedroom there. So he has his same stuff arranged in the same sort of way. I think of all the changes he's had to go through and that he struggled with, that one he just took in his stride, no issue at all. I don't think he cares where he is as long as he's got his stuff arranged in the right order around him. Kyle Mollick says, if you had the opportunity to be a professional wrestler or manage posh in real life, what would you do? I'd manage posh in real life. I'm 35 years old. If I was given the opportunity to be a professional wrestler now, at most, it would be 5 years and then it's done, and I'd get really badly hurt. I've got so many injuries already. I mean, really, I've got the most realistic one. I could go and become a professional wrestler if I really wanted to. If I took training seriously for 2 years, I could go and book some. I could get involved in some matches on the indie scene. I'm 6'2". I'm a big lad. I used to play rugby. I could probably learn to take a bump. I could do it. I don't like the idea of getting hurt. Managing posh in real life, that would be the dream. I would be all over that. Thomas Bedford Williams says, my opinions on Costa Coffee. It's all right if there's no Starbucks around. Tom Williams says, if given the opportunity, would you get involved with wrestling in real life? I can see an indie fed using me as an announcer or manager. Maybe. I don't know. That's an interesting one. Maybe as a commentator. I wouldn't want to get anywhere near the ring because I wouldn't want to get hurt. Sam Nimmo says, which, if any, are my favourite pop vinyls from my collection? I'm going to put a pin in that one because I want to do a video on my collection at some point in the next week or two because people keep asking. So there will be a video at some point. It's just going to be me showing you my collection of pop vinyls and comics and stuff. So if that's something that excites you and interests you, let me know down in the comments that you're looking forward to that. The more people who seem excited, the sooner we'll do it. Daniel Collins says, have either of your daughters thought about starting a YouTube channel? Yeah, Amy in particular is really keen. She has actually started one and then closed it again. But I think she really likes the idea of being a YouTuber. Lucy would probably want to do something more behind camera. She wants me to teach her to edit video. And she's got her eyes focused in on a little part-time job as being an editor for me, which she's got a MacBook now. She got a MacBook off her mum for her birthday. She's now got the tools to be able to do it. I'm going to teach her to edit. We've got Final Cut Pro that she can use. We've got iMovie that she can use. Premiere Pro that she can use. There's plenty of stuff she could learn to edit with. I think she'd like to do something behind camera because she likes editing and she likes that creative process. She's very artistic, but she's not that keen in front of camera. Amy, though, is just like me. She's very excitable and likes to show off and loves being in front of the camera. So I think the two of them together could probably put something really cool together, and it might be something you see at some point. Callum Paxton says, how's Lucy finding her GCSEs? She's doing good. She's on target for all her target grades, so can't complain at that. Charlie says, what's my favourite game? Football Manager. I made a job out of it. It's brilliant. Matt Guest says, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? In reality, I wouldn't change anything about myself. I think I'm brilliant. If there were little things that I could nitpick, or if reality wasn't an issue, I think I would have really thrived if I'd have been born 10 years later. I think if I was 25 now, in this internet age, I think the sky would be the limit for being a YouTuber. And I think I would have started it a lot sooner, and I think maybe the style of video would have been very different, but I could see myself being a proper vlogger, not just a fat old man who sits in his garage and chats to you. And I think I was probably a little bit old, missed that boat slightly. It would have been nice if in 2010, when I first started messing around on the internet, and we had the choice at the time, we sampled both podcasts, blogging, and YouTube. And we decided to start a blog with a podcast attached to it and just put a pin in YouTube, leave it to one side. I wish I'd have made a different decision there. I wish I'd have been on YouTube for 7 or 8 years at this point rather than 2 years, because again, the sky could be the limit if we'd have started that little bit earlier. But, you know, other stuff like, it'd be nice if my eyebrows didn't meet in the middle. It'd be nice if I wasn't so fat. These are all things I could change about myself if I cared that much, and I haven't. Laurel Dubridge says, what's Andy's favourite PS2 game? His favourite PS2 game is Simpsons Hit and Run. Lars TBA, would you consider helping families homeschool their kids as a teacher, especially kids who can't cope with the physicalities of being in school itself for whatever reason? I said Lars, didn't I? It looks like it's actually Laws. I'm going to sound like such a monster with this answer, but probably not. Purely because I've got to pay my own bills. That's the reason that homeschooling Andy's never been a sensible option for us, because to homeschool, you don't get any funding for homeschooling at all in the UK. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, But if you choose to homeschool in the UK, you're completely on your own, even to the point where you don't get any government help to buy a textbook that would help you do it. So I'd be completely on my own doing it. There'd be no way to earn any money. And I don't think it's that effective either. I know for some people, like you said, for people with physical disabilities, and I can certainly understand why it would be helpful, but I don't know how I could make a career out of it. And unless I become independently wealthy to the point where I don't need to worry about the actions that I take during the day contributing towards my income, then I don't think it's something I could get involved in. It would be lovely in an ideal world to be able to do something like that, but we're not in an ideal world, and I've got to pay them bills. Sue Waplington says, what do you do to help Andy calm down when ill, and any chance of a meet-up in Derby? I've kind of answered both of those questions already. For Derby, read Newcastle, and for when ill, we'll just insert the rest of the time. It's no different when he's ill. Blanket over the head. Derby, we did one in Nottingham last year. Should have come to Nottingham. Derby is less likely than Newcastle because I've been to Derby loads of times. I like to go to new places. Bobo Daniel, would you say you're an expert on FM or just a fan? Just a fan? I am a fan. I wouldn't want to be an expert. I could be an expert if I really dedicated myself to it. I'm sure I could be. I've been playing the game for 25 years. You'd think I should be an expert by now. But I think if I was an expert, my videos would be super, super boring. So I deliberately don't learn and don't get any better at the game because I think I'm just at the right standard to make entertaining videos. And ultimately, what I try to do with Football Manager is it is the backdrop for a daily entertainment series that I make. It's not intended to be a Football Manager tutorial. So, and I wouldn't watch a Football Manager tutorial. I think it would be boring. I wouldn't want to make one. I think it would be boring. I wouldn't want to win every game and win every league and get promoted every year and win everything. It would just be so boring. I wouldn't want a perfect tactic. It would be boring. I like the way I do it. I think it's fun. So, yeah, I'm a massive Football Manager fan, not just a fan at all. And I wouldn't want to be an expert. Oh, that was the last one. There you go. That's actually been a much longer video than it was intended on being. I will endeavour to edit it down a little bit, but we all know I'm not going to. So hopefully you have enjoyed a nice big fat Q&A. If you didn't get a chance to ask some questions for yourself, then you need to make sure you get involved in our Facebook group at facebook.com/LollujoFM, the group, the discussion group, the forum area that is attached to the main page. Get involved over there because I'm using that more and more for sort of instant interaction and feedback with people. And obviously following on Twitter as well is a good way to make sure you don't miss out on these things. I did put the Q&A details on Twitter as well. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up for us. Subscribe to the channel for daily vlogs. I think it's safe to say we're back to full on daily now. Andy's back at school. Thank you very much for watching.